Assalamu alaikum everybody. So in this video, we'll talk about some concepts related to brain, which are brain plasticity and brain lateralization. I have shared with you a video regarding different parts of the brain. Please watch the video to learn and to revise these concepts of about brain. Um, Brain lateralization is a concept that is used for brain's specialization in brain specialization in some specific functions. You would remember that cerebrum is one of the largest parts of the brain, and we can divide cerebrum in two equal halves, and which are also called left and right cerebral hemispheres. Both these hemispheres are specialized for some specific functions. For example, our left hemisphere is specialized for reasoning, learning, logic, and planning. When we say these functions are specific to left hemisphere, which means that left hemisphere is predisposed to acquire these learning abilities, whereas our right hemisphere is predisposed to specialize in functions like creativity, intuition, spatial skills. All such functions are a product of right hemisphere. Also, our left hemisphere controls our right side of the body, and our right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. So lateralization basically is the specialization of the two hemispheres. In the first few years of life, the brain is highly plastic, which means that the brain is highly flexible. It can reorganize areas committed to specific functions in ways the mature brain cannot. For example, if there is some injury or some loss of function in one cerebral hemisphere, due to injury, then there's a chance for brain's other areas uh, to you know to acquire that specific function. That is what brain plasticity is, flexibility is. When a brain is mature, or when a brain has already specialized in certain functions, it becomes difficult for the brain to relearn something or rewire itself. When I say it's difficult, it means the brain requires more effort and more conscious regulation to relearn. But it is difficult, but it is not impossible. Also, a lot of other factors counts in to explain if relearning is possible or not. That depends upon the severity of injury, that depends upon the time, the age of the individual. Older adults have more difficulty in recovering or rewiring its brain, whereas younger people have much capacity, or brain shows more plasticity in younger adults. Sensitive periods in brain development means that stimulation of brain is vital during certain periods in which it is growing rapidly. It is also seen through animal studies that early extreme sensory deprivation results in premature brain damage or permanent brain damage. Uh, so, for example, visual experiences are essentials for the brain's visual centers to develop normally. So if these experiences are not provided, visual experiences are not provided, the brain does show some form of defects and disruptions in those centers, which means that the brain would not be likely to grow properly, or those centers were not likely to be grown properly. This has been again tested to multiple animal studies. It has been shown that when young kittens, a few days old kittens, were deprived or of light, they were put in dark place for about 2 weeks, and later on when they brought back to light, they showed signs of degeneration, signs of disruption in the visual centers. The sense of sight was completely lost, which means that in the initial, even in the initial days of life, the basic sources of sensory stimulation are required for different centers of the brain to work, establish, organize, and grow. So, which means through these kind of studies, it has confirmed that brain requires stimulation for its centers to grow. Generally, the quality of early environment affects overall brain growth. So again, quality of environment would ensure the healthy development of brain also. We can categorize brain stimulation in two ways. That means when you say brain requires stimulation, brain requires some form of activity to function and to, to establish networks of communication within those centers um, that will help the brain to grow and refine and develop. So we can categorize brain stimulation in two ways: experience expectant brain growth and experience dependent brain growth. Experience expectant brain growth refers to the young brain's rapidly developing organization, which is dependent upon ordinary day-to-day experiences. Are, for example, our opportunity to see and touch objects, to hear language and sounds, and to move about, to explore the environment, enables our brain to brain to excuse me enables the brain to operate different centers in the brain to operate. For example, when light source stimulates the when light source is there, it stimulates our sense of sight centers, which enables different centers of the brain to work. That is how these centers establishes and work and grow. So these are called experience expectant growth, brain growth. Experience dependent brain growth is dependent upon brain growth occurs throughout our lives. It consists of additional growth and refinement of established brain structures as a result of specific learning experiences that vary widely across individuals and cultures. For example, when you invest in certain work ability or skill learning, for example, somebody who is athletic would engage in a lot of physical sport or physical exercise, which requires, when you engage in certain form of physical activity, there's some centers of the brain which are actively working. When certain centers of the brain are more stimulated, those centers become more skilled and more efficient, and that is how a person gains expertise in those areas. So when a brain is more skilled in a that means कि जब आपकी एक स्किल एक्वायर आप कर रहे होते हो तो आपका एक सेंटर ज्यादा एक्टिवली फंक्शन कर रहा होता है, तो वो आपकी ब्रेन की एफिशिएंसी को इम्प्रूव करता है उस एरिया के अंदर. सो इस वजह से हम देख सकते हैं कि जो लोग आर्टिस्ट होते हैं उनका एक सेंटर ऑफ वो ज्यादा क्रिएटिवली सोच रहे होते हैं, तो उनका राइट हेमिस्फेयर ज्यादा एक्टिव होगा, ज्यादा काम कर रहा होगा, और वो ज्यादा ज्यादा उस सेंटर्स में ज्यादा ज्यादा एस्टेब्लिशमेंट होगी, डेवलपमेंट अकर होगी. इसी तरह जो लोग फिजिकल स्पोर्ट्स में एक्टिव होंगे उनके लिए उनका एक और एरिया ऑफ द ब्रेन ज्यादा एक्टिवली काम कर रहा होगा. तो इस तरह हमारे एरियाज डिफरेंट सेंटर्स जो ब्रेन के हैं, जो कुछ एक्टिविटीज के लिए स्पेसिफाइड हैं, जिस जब उसको उनको स्टिमुलेशन मिलती है, उनको सोर्सेज मिलते हैं उन एक्टिविटीज के लिए, उन एक्टिविटीज के लिए काम करने के लिए, तो ब्रेन उसके लिए ज्यादा उस एक्सपीरियंस की बेसिस पे ब्रेन की ज्यादा ग्रोथ होती है, उस सेंटर ऑफ द ब्रेन की ज्यादा ग्रोथ हो रही होती है. तो इसी तरह सो एक पियानिस्ट एक वायलिनिस्ट का जो ब्रेन होगा वो डिफरेंट होगा एक पोएट के ब्रेन से, या एक कंप्यूटर इंजीनियर से, बिकॉज उसके डिफरेंट सेंटर्स ब्रेन के, इन सारे इंडिविजुअल्स के डिफरेंट सेंटर्स ब्रेन के ज्यादा एक्टिव हैं, ज्यादा स्टिमुलेटेड हैं. So experience expectant brain growth जो है वो it takes place early and naturally as caregivers offer babies and preschoolers age appropriate play material and engage them in activities, whereas experience dependent brain growth is an additional learning experience that continues for a longer period of time. So that's about it for this section, this video. Please go through the text material as well and the video link which I've uploaded to get a better, clearer idea of how brain functions and different parts of the brain are responsible for different sets of behaviors. Thank you.